Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
You are now listening to the Dynasty Rewind.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind. I'm your host, Michael Bauer, the best in the business, once again back in business, joined as always by my faithful co-host, Nate, the not-so-professorly professor, Christian. Nate, hello.
Hello, Mike. Happy Tuesday to you as always, or most of the time.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Tuesday night game for the Dynasty Rewind. That's when we record.
Yep.
Nate, the professor Christian, Nate, pink sweater and oat milk Christian, however you want to quantify it. So a lot of people loved and did not love our milkshake talk last week. We just wanted to give you an inside glimpse into the things that go on behind the scenes here at the Dynasty Rewind.
Yeah, and the podcast people get it. You know, we want to give you YouTube people get it. But I understand the YouTube people have a much shorter attention span. Like,
I get it, because sometimes I don't have time to watch a 40-minute video. You know what I mean? I just don't. So, but speaking of behind the scenes, let's take a look behind the scenes real quick, and let's touch on something that people have been asking about for a while. A lot of people have been asking, where's Bob? What's Bob up to? Haven't seen him in a while. Unfortunately, Bob has decided to step away from the brand. This is just something that he was feeling burned out, wasn't feeling it anymore. He was still doing editing for us. I'm sure you guys noticed that the content was dipping for a while. Obviously, himself and Zach we're creating content multiple times a week, at least once a week. And look, to be honest with you, we owe ourselves a great amount of gratitude and debt to Bob. Bob was the one that really propelled our YouTube channel to where it is today. And we would not be here without him. And that's just me being realistic. Despite the fact that this is the brand that I started, his vision really helped take it from here to here. And I will always owe him that debt of gratitude. I know a lot of times when people leave a brand or a business, people think that there's animosity. There's none. We're still friends. Bob, I told him he could reach out to me if he needs anything or just wants to chat, whatever. So there's none of that. It was just, he felt it was his time to step away, and we respect that decision. When I found out about it, obviously I was upset because I like Bob. I like working with Bob. I liked hanging out with him. I liked creating content with him. He's a great visionary mind. So he will be missed. So bear with us. We got a new editor in here. It's also the gentleman that is creating our website, dynastyrewind.com, which will be available shortly. By the way, building a website, a much more arduous task than I ever assumed that it was. So, but we got that. We're going to be having some new people come on board. So we're going to be ramping that content back up. So also, that being said, if you're looking to contribute, we got a new guy. He's going to be starting. He's going to be getting some articles out for us. Maybe we'll get him on the YouTube channel or the RSS feed at some point in time. Obviously, people come in. You got to prove yourself first. If you are looking to create content, dynastyrewind@gmail.com. Subject line, creating content. Okay? Not anything else. Don't be cute. I'm not going to read it. Tell me who you are. Give me your socials handles so I could check it out. Links to any work that you have provided. Or if you want to write, if you want to do this or that, tell me. Give me a sample of something. Okay?
Yeah. Also, please include your mother's maiden name, social security number, street you grew up on. Those are very helpful.
And the last 3 digits on the back of your credit card as well. So that's what we got going on. Just wanted to do a little update on how things are going. So I know those of you love Bob. We still love Bob. Speak for all of us here on the crew. That doesn't mean you should go anywhere. Obviously, we're still going to be pumping out content. I don't know if Bob's going to be creating content or not. I'm not really sure what his plans are. If he decides to come back at any point in time, I told him he's always welcome back. That goes without saying. So that's that. Nate, do you have anything to say before we move on and get into the show?
Nope. I think you summarized it quite well. But I will voice that I will also miss Bob. I don't know if he'll ever come back, but if he did, it would warm my heart.
Can I share with you?
I'm happy for him and his future endeavors for sure.
Yes. And, he's the type of guy where I know whatever he does, he's going to do great at it because he's just a determined guy. He's a driven guy. And when he really sets his mind on something, he's going to do the best that he can to excel at it. That's just the type of guy he is. My favorite Bob moment, by the way, Tucker Kraft getting drafted by the Packers.
That was pretty good. Worked out much better than he expected. That's for sure.
It did. Yeah. But that's one of those things where, opportunity outweighs talent sometimes, right? Luke Musgrave got hurt. Tucker Kraft came in. The rest, as they say, is history. So, but, that's the somber news. The good news is we're talking late round draft picks today. My favorite part of the draft. Remember, like I always say, draft capital is draft capital. You can do fun stuff with it. So today we're talking about late round picks to stash. And look, sometimes we've seen it, Nate. These late round guys, you think you're just going to stash them and dip them right on your taxi squad. You end up pulling them out and they're contributing year one. What quantifies a late round pick? I said like mid third round or later. That's typically what a lot of people quantify as a late round pick, right? You got a 5-round rookie draft. That's typically where people start to peg it as a late round pick. To use this, we used Dynasty Rewind ADP. If you'd like to see the ADP or contribute to it, it'll be on our website, or you can become a Patreon of ours, patron, a rewinder, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We're on mock drafts in there. I think I might do one tomorrow night or Thursday, maybe. And whenever we draft, the ADP gets updated in our ADP sheet. But until then, Nate, I have talked enough for a little bit. I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing from me. Who is your first late round pick that you're stashing? I almost put this guy on for me, by the way.
All right. Well, the guy that you put up in the middle of this show is someone who I was upset that I didn't get. So I'm happy that I got somebody that you were thinking about as well.
Stole one from you.
Yeah, you did. But I'm excited. I have been excited about Elic Ayomanor going to the Tennessee Titans out of Stanford. The wide receiver goes over there as a 4th-round pick. I was kind of surprised he fell into day 3, to be quite honest. I thought he was, a late day 2 pick. Talent-wise, ends up falling into the 4th round, and early in the 4th round, the Titans picked him up. And at 6'2", 206 pounds, he's one of the bigger wide receivers there. Calvin Ridley's about 6'1", but he's got about 20 pounds on Calvin Ridley. You got a guy over there like Van Jefferson, who's a little bit bigger than I think a lot of people think, but he's still got a good bit of weight on him as well. So this is like the biggest wide receiver there outside of Treylon Burks, who we know has been a disappointment.
Really?
So yeah, I know. It's surprising to hear. I know. So there's a lot of opportunity in this wide receiver room. You got Calvin Ridley, you got Van Jefferson, you got Tyler Lockett, who I think could actually have a quietly productive year because Cam Ward needs somebody to throw to. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward threw for about 4,000 yards in his rookie year. He's got that kind of arm, and he's done it so much in college. He could walk in and throw 4,000 yards. Maybe it's 3,500, but either way, someone's got to catch those passes.
They might have to, by the way.
Yeah, they might.
Just
so, Calvin Ridley's obviously going to have a pretty good season, but I think Tyler Lockett will. And then who else in that wide receiver room? Probably not Treylon Burks. Maybe Xavier Restrepo goes from UDFA back to his college quarterback and, performs well and makes the team and gets out there. But, he did go undrafted, unfortunately. So I'm not going to hold my hopes on him as much as I would love to. Ayomanor is a good route runner. He ran a 4.4 at his size, which is really good. He's really good at the catch point as well. Still a little raw. He's originally from Canada, from Alberta. Actually, Medicine Hat, Alberta is where he is originally from. Redshirted his freshman year at Stanford due to an injury. And then he played 2 years and then declared. So he's actually an early declare, but he only played 2 years of college. This past year wasn't quite as good as 2 years ago. Stanford wasn't quite as good. But over the past 2 years, 126 receptions, 1,853 yards, and 12 touchdowns. That's a lot of production over the past 2 years playing for, honestly, a not very good team at Stanford. So I like what Ayomanor has done in his college career. I like how it translates to this wide receiver room. And for what it's worth, in 2023, he kind of roasted Travis Hunter, who, is the number 2 overall pick in this past year's draft, for 13 catches, 294 yards, and 3 touchdowns, Mike, including a game-winning touchdown in overtime.
And what a game that was, by the way.
What a game it was. It was like 2 a.m. when it ended. But
I believe that was Stanford's biggest comeback ever.
Yeah, they were down by like 4 touchdowns in the beginning of the second half. It was wild. Tied it up, it had to go into overtime, and then Ayomanor just incredible catch over Travis Hunter, draped on him. So this guy's got talent, that is for sure. And with the opportunity in front of him in the Tennessee Titans wide receiver room and Cam Ward being there now, who I think is a stud, and like I said, it's going to throw for a lot of yards. Someone's got to be out there to catch him. I think Elic Ayomanor could be an option out there for him. Realistic expectations, not expecting him to be a top 36 wide receiver or anything. But I do expect like a top 75 wide receiver season. Doesn't sound super great, but other guys in that range last year, Dontavian Wicks, Keyshawn Butte, Keon Coleman. Overall, that would be a pretty solid rookie season for a fourth-round pick that you could continue to develop on. And looking at that, that's about 40 catches, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's nothing too crazy. Not something you're probably going to have in your starting lineup, but enough where you see flashes where maybe he can improve in that second year. There's always the option for more than that with the opportunity that could be in that wide receiver room. But at the 311, which is his Dynasty Rewind ADP, I'm really happy with picking up the upside there. Yeah,
I like that. I'm actually surprised when I saw this on here. I figured you were going to go Xavier Restrepo. Honestly,
he's just a UDFA. If he was like a 6th rounder, I might have. But UDFA, it's tough. It's tough out there.
Yeah, I get it. So I like the player. I like the pick. And yeah, he has opportunity. And you say that Tyler Lockett's probably going to have a good year. I don't see why not. I mean, Tyler Lockett, one thing he doesn't do is miss a lot of games. Just looking back through his history.
He falls down every time he catches the ball, so he doesn't get hit.
Yeah, that is true. But last year, 49 catches, 600 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think it's safe to say he could easily do that this year in Tennessee, for sure. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about my player that I'm stashing. That's New England Patriots wide receiver Kyle Williams. I'm assuming this isn't the one that you were talking about being upset that I took?
No.
Yeah, you're not a Kyle Williams fan.
No, I'm not really.
He's going off at the 307 in our ADP. He's also in a very crowded wide receiver room. Hear me out. The starters right now are Demario Douglas, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins. Keyshawn Butte, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, and Javon Baker are the notable reserves. There's some other guys on there, but guys that are likely not going to make the roster. So I didn't include them. I do think that Williams is going to have a lot of playing time in the preseason. He's going to have a chance to work with Drake May. Probably not as much as the starters, but he'll get his opportunities in there. So if he shines, I mean, he's going to be a lock to make the team. That much we know. Mm-hmm. But we've seen, the New England Patriots wide receiver room, it needs a boost. And I think that Kyle Williams could be that guy. He is a great field stretcher. I think he could also be used on some close to the line of scrimmage plays as well. The one thing that I'm going to need to see some refinement on from him is just his overall technique. And he does need to play more physically. I know he's not the biggest player, but we've seen smaller guys. A great example of a smaller wide receiver just being out of his mind physical is Steve Smith. He was like 5'8", 5'9", and the guy just played like his hair was on fire. Not that he had any. So, but that being said, guys like him, Devonta Smith is a more slender guy too. He plays as physical as he can. So if Kyle Williams can step up his physicality, I think he has a good shot to be a nice stash for you. As far as what I think he's going to do this year, going to start on your taxi. Hollins and Diggs, they're signed beyond this year, but these guys are aging, especially Stephon Diggs. So I think Williams is going to have more opportunity next year than this year, but I still want to get him on my roster, see what he could do, hang on to him for a little bit.
Mike, I got a question for you.
Hopefully I have an answer.
All right, so you got Demario Douglas, Stephon Diggs,
We did.
Mac Hollins, Keyshawn Butte, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, Kyle Williams. That is 8 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume the Patriots only keep 6. So,
Right.
who's not making the team?
I don't think Keyshawn Butte is making the team.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are pretty high on Keyshawn Butte. He had a pretty solid. He had some flashes last year. I don't really want to say solid season, but
He
some
did.
flashes.
Of those guys, I would say him. Maybe Jalen Polk. I don't know. Jalen Polk was a second-round pick. Then I would say Javon Baker would most likely be the other odd man out. I don't think they're gonna cut Kendrick Bourne just because
I would bet on Baker and Kendrick Bourne, but
getting
I
cut.
don't think Butte is going to get cut. I feel like he did too much.
I don't know. I mean, Kendrick Bourne brings the veteran experience, and I know Stephon Diggs has that too, but just looking at it from a standpoint of more of a level-headed veteran experience, I think Kendrick Bourne provides that. And then on the roster, they also have John Giles, Jeremiah Webb, Efton Kism, and Demir. Look, man, I'm not saying these names, but they're there. Demir Blankums. Okay. Yeah, see, I'm just not doing it. I don't know. I don't know. He went to Memphis. He's 5'9". He was a UDFA. So
well, Mike, my next guy went to Rutgers.
Yes, he did.
And I hope I'm going to get his last name right. Kyle Monangai.
I think it's Kyle Monangai.
Monangai.
Yes, I believe.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. You are obviously the best person to rely on when it comes to pronouncing last names. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm no Brandon Lejeune, but I get my fair share of last names correct. Also, I'm not super far from Rutgers too, so I've heard about this guy for a while. So
Monangai here.
Yes.
DR ADP, Dynasty Rewind ADP, 5'11". So this is definitely a late round pick. You might be picking him up UDFA. I think he was a UDFA in my last one quarterback draft, actually. So yeah. Okay. Going to the Chicago Bears in late day 3, 7th round. Well, who's the running back for the Bears right now? Mike, DeAndre Swift, right?
That he is.
All right. And Roshan Johnson is the other guy there. But DeAndre Swift, new head coach Ben Johnson was on the Lions. They didn't like DeAndre Swift, apparently. They traded him away. Now Ben Johnson goes there. A lot of rumors, a lot of very founded rumors that they were going to get Trey Henderson in the beginning of the 2nd round, but got jumped by the Patriots. So obviously they were looking for other options outside of DeAndre Swift. Weren't able to make it happen where they wanted it, but they ended up picking this guy from the 7th round. He's not going to supplant DeAndre Swift as the starter, but probably starts out as the RB3 on this team. There's not a lot of depth after DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. And while he doesn't offer a lot of the receiving game, I think he only had 8 receptions last year for Rutgers. Kyle Monangai, I think will be competitive with Roshan Johnson for early down touches. Now, I'm not going to say that he's going to go ahead and surpass him. I think Roshan Johnson will still be the goal line guy. But I think once we get into the season, I think we're going to see a little bit of this guy in the offense. He's got great contact balance. He's got great short area quickness, and he plays hard. He plays really hard, and I think offenses like that. Ben Johnson's going to like that. He's someone that you can move around a little bit. I think he has more receiving upside than we saw in college. I think this is a guy that could have some flashes. And while he's not going to be a starter in your team absolutely this year, DeAndre Swift isn't necessarily the healthiest running back in the world. He has missed some games throughout each season with some injuries. Roshan Johnson, a guy that I think we all think is pretty solid, but not someone who's going to keep another decent player off the field necessarily.
Hasn't had the opportunity.
And he's had some opportunities, and he's done decently well in those opportunities, but not incredible, not really too far above average. So I think in this offense, in this backfield, Monangai has opportunity. And when we're looking at these late round picks, opportunity is where it comes around, because at this point, you're not really able to bet on talent. It gets really muddy at this point on who really is the most talented player. Is it the running back picked in the 5th round? Is the running back picked in the 7th round? At the NFL level, these coaches and GMs are kind of picking their guy for their scheme and what they want to do with these guys, rather than just a straight up talent BPA like they're doing in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round. So, I'm not going to be the one to say, the end all be all on who's more talented than the other guy. But when there's opportunity, that's what I will chase with these guys. Not a great long-term play. It's a late day 3 running back. But I will say, DeAndre Swift is on the 2nd to last year of his contract. He will be in his last year of his contract next year. But the Bears can save $7.5 million by cutting him next year. They only take on just over $1 million in dead cap. So they save a lot of money. I think based on what they were trying to do this offseason, we will see an addition to the running back room, probably with some decent draft capital or money in free agency this offseason as DeAndre Swift goes somewhere else. So, I'm not saying that Monangai here is going to be next year's starter, but there's going to be some upheaval, I think, in that backfield this offseason. So always opportunity.
The only thing I could say about the whole DeAndre Swift Lions thing, I know that had been talked about with Ben Johnson coming to town, but for all we know, any distrust there, that could have been DeAndre Swift and the front office too, for all we know. Maybe he wanted more money, wanted a deal.
Could have been Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's quite the, hey, you got to be part of this culture. You got to fight with every tooth and nail. And I don't know. I don't know DeAndre Swift personally, but maybe he didn't vibe with that.
Yeah, and that's a possibility. Some players buy into a system, and if they don't, they get traded or they get released. So that's always a possibility for what could have happened there.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Nate, is this the one that you're upset that I took?
It is. This is probably my favorite late round player right now.
So me of all people talking about a Dallas Cowboys player, and that's the new Dallas Cowboys running back, Jaydon Blue. His Dynasty Rewind ADP is the 401. And I feel like that's for right now. But in about a month or two, I believe it's going to be higher than this. And it should. I mean, Rico Dowdle, their leading rusher last season, is gone. He is now in Carolina. And Ezekiel Elliott is gone. Maybe retired. I don't know what he's got going on. So that opens up 309 carries and 64 targets. Now, obviously, Javonte Williams there. He's going to take a bulk of that, we assume. Now, you had touched on Javonte Williams not being the same since he injured his knee in week 4 of 22, in which he tore his ACL, LCL, and PCL. Source, playerprofiler.com. So don't run to the comments. Tell me I'm wrong. Got off profiler. Okay. Since then, Javonte Williams has averaged 3.6 yards per carry in 23 and 3.7 yards per carry in 2024. So not exactly great. And by the way, Miles Sanders, who's listed as 3rd on the depth chart in Dallas, He hasn't fared well since leaving Philadelphia after the 22 season. He has totaled in those 2 years he's been gone 637 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns and 302 receiving yards with 1 touchdown. That's 2 seasons, 27 games, and 7 starts. So
he's been such a disappointment. Remember, he signed like a 3-year deal.
He did.
Pretty decently sized contract for a running back.
Yeah.
And wow. The lack of production is kind of appalling.
Not to mention Jaydon Blue, pretty big back, 6 foot. He's fairly physical. And in my opinion, he's one of the better receiving backs in the class too. And I think in a PPR format, that's really where he's going to make his money, your money for your league. And I do think that he's going to get some playing time. I don't think it's going to take too long for that to happen. This is a guy that could step in and be a decent flex play, or, maybe one of those low-end injury/bye week fill-ins. You're going to need guys like this. We all have players on buys. We have guys get hurt. So I think Jaydon Blue could be one of those dudes, and especially at the 401, I think he's a great stash to have around. Not a taxi stash. Keep him on the end of your bench.
Yeah, I agree. I love Jaydon Blue right now as a 4th-round pick, as a late 3rd-round pick. I'm more than happy picking him up. I think there's a lot of upside there with very little initial investment.
Yeah. Nate, do you want to go to your last player?
I will. Next up, I got wide receiver Tory Horton out of Colorado State going to the Seattle Seahawks in the 5th round of the NFL draft, currently with our Dynasty Rewind ADP, the 503. Tory Horton had quite the college career. It was very productive, especially in 2022 and 2023. Between those 2 seasons, 167 receptions, 2,275 yards, 16 touchdowns. Honestly, one of the best wide receivers in college over that 2-year period. Unfortunately, he had a knee injury last year, only played in 5 games, had 25 receptions, 331 yards, 1 touchdown. And Colorado State wasn't very good in those games he did play. Missed the rest of the season with a knee injury. There was some questions about if he wasn't even be able to test at the NFL Combine. He still did test. And coming off this knee injury, where he did have knee surgery, it's college, don't tell me exactly what it is, but he had knee surgery, so it was significant enough to miss the season to have surgery. Went to the Combine, and at 6'2", 196 pounds, 6'2.5" actually is what the NFL website says, ran a 4.41. And with a 1.53 10-yard split, which is really, really good acceleration, I was very impressed by that. I knew Tory Horton was a bigger guy, could play on the outside. I didn't expect him to be that fast. So for a team with the Seattle Seahawks that now their top 2 wide receivers are Cooper Kupp and JSN, 2 slot receivers, they need somebody on the outside. Tory Horton can do that. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the route running ability, he's got the technique. He's shown us what he can do. He can be a bit more physical, as that outside wide receiver is going to need to be a bit more physical at the NFL level. But this is a guy that has a ton of upside because he's got the athletic testing. He has the production profile. And, unfortunately, he stayed in college an extra year. I thought he should have came out last year. I actually really thought he came out actually for a little bit. And then I realized he stayed back at Colorado State and had the injury. So, otherwise he would have easily been a day 2 pick last year. If it wasn't for the injury, would have probably been a day 2 pick this year. So, you're getting this guy at a value. And on a team where, you do have 2 wide receivers, they're going to get a lot of the targets. There's not going to be a lot of expectations for Tory Horton, but his competition for the wide receiver 3, for that outside wide receiver right now, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Jake Bobo. Not the toughest, obstacles to get through. If he can show some promise and get out there. MVS, I know is fast, has had some production over his career, but I believe MVS is he's been around for a little bit, so he's kind of on the tail end of his career at this point. And I know there's some people out there that are some Jake Bobo stands, but I think Tory Horton has a pretty good shot to be a productive kind of wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3 for this team this rookie year. He also, I have this note here, PFF's 13th highest ranked wide receiver in 2023, just further showing, how well he really was in college. And, if it wasn't for this injury, it wasn't for the bad season by Colorado State, I think we'd be talking about this guy a lot differently. So this has created an opportunity to go get him at a value. Like I said, 503 right now in Dynasty Rewind ADP. And I'm expecting something like maybe 30 receptions, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns is a stat line I threw out there. Not going to be anything incredible, But what I'm hoping for is he does enough to keep the Seattle Seahawks from adding another wide receiver with really high draft capital or really high monetary investment in the 2026 offseason, and that they move forward with a guy like Tory Horton as the wide receiver 3 into 2026. And as long as Sam Darnold can even come close to matching his contract, I think Tory Horton in 2026 could be a guy that maybe gets into your flex every now and then.
It's funny because you said he should have came out last year. I think Elic Ayomanor should have stayed another year. Probably would have helped his draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. Usually early declares don't fall to day 3. Like Ayomanor is one of the few early declares that did end up going day 3. I mean, I think there's some running backs in this class that early declared and went day 3, but usually a lot of early declares go in the first round or day 2.
Interesting article too here on SI.com. The Seahawks' new speed demon, which is Tory Horton, named one of 5 rookie wide receivers who will outplay NFL draft value. And as per Bleacher Report writer Brett Sableski, he called Horton the next Puka Nacua, believing he could be a standout despite being a day 3 selection. Hey, careful throwing stuff like that around, Brent, by the way. So just saying. So there you go. Nate says it. My man Brent Sableski says it too. He's a listener.
Is he? Yeah, sure he is.
He is.
Yeah, he loves his podcast.
In my mind. So wouldn't be a Dynasty Rewind podcast without me talking about a late round tight end. At the 312, we have Los Angeles Rams tight end Terrance Ferguson. Nate, I'm sure you're aware, I'm a pretty big Terrance Ferguson fan.
I am aware you are higher on him than I am, because I have him as my tight end 4, but I think you had him as your tight end 3.
Yeah, honestly, after Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, you can make cases to be splitting hairs there. Well, not necessarily. Got the kid that went to the Jets. What's that, Mason Taylor, right?
Mason Taylor, man, that's my guy. That's my obvious tight end 3 to me, and then it's Terrance Ferguson.
Yeah, Gunnar Helm, who I like as well. But here's the thing about Terrance Ferguson, okay? For his size, I think he could be a little more physical, but he is a very dynamic field stretcher. And I think going into a Sean McVay offense, losing a guy like Cooper Kupp, they got Devontae Adams out there who's on the downward part of his career. Still think he's going to be fine for this year. If you're playing a redraft league, Devontae Adams is a good selection. Got Puka, and then you got Tutu Atwell, who came on a little bit last year, but I'm still not sold 100% on Tutu Atwell, to be honest with you. Tyler Higbee is there, but he's 32, which apparently is old now. And he has missed 16 games over the last 2 years. He had an ACL/MCL injury, a shoulder bruise, and a stinger. So all 3 of those combined for 16 games. Here's the thing. Tutu Atwell's a small guy. He wants to put some versatility and flexibility on the field. McVay could roll Terrance Ferguson out there and get him in some creative ways. He's more dynamic than Tyler Higbee. Do I think that Tyler Higbee is more of your prototype traditional tight end? Yes. Do I think Terrance Ferguson with some time in the NFL can be that? Yeah. I don't see why not. Higbee's contract is up after the season as well. 2026 is technically there, but it's a void year. So Ferguson's going to have some real opportunity, and I think it starts this year. Now, I do think that may be better for best ball this year. I think he's going to get some targets, some opportunity. I think it's going to come in clusters. You're not going to know when to start him. That's year 1. But I think he has a chance next year where if he is the starter, he could crack the tight end 2 realm. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, right?
I don't disagree. I think there's plenty of opportunity for Ferguson. I'm certainly a fan of him, especially at 312. I think it's such a great deal if you're looking for a tight end. If you missed out on the top 2, if you missed out on Mason Taylor, the back half of the second round or whatever, I'd be more than happy picking up Ferguson. It's funny, Mike, you mentioned Devontae Adams there. I still, it hasn't really set in my brain that Devontae Adams is a Los Angeles Rams yet. I need to see that on the field to really understand it. I always forget that he's out there.
Yeah. I mean, he's 32. So,
hey, I'm thinking, I'm going to go try to throw a 2026 second round pick somewhere for Devontae Adams, see if I get someone to bite, because I agree. I think it'd be a pretty good lineup starter this year.
I mean, he's going to have ample opportunities out there.
Yeah.
For
Matthew
sure.
Stafford still can sling it. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Matthew Stafford, he's, you see a lot of these guys like Ben Roethlisberger, his arm just deteriorated. Drew Brees, we saw it with him.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Stafford showing no signs of that. Philip
Which
Rivers
is incredible considering how many times he's been hit in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, Big Ben, that's like one of the reasons he kind of fell off so quickly is just he's gone through a lot. His body's gone through a lot. Drew Brees had the shoulder injury that it came back from, but I think that contributed to his arm kind of falling off there at the end as well.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Matthew Stafford. I mean, he's always had a big arm. He's always been tough, but it's impressive what he's continuing to still do.
He's 37.
Yeah.
Born in the same decade as me. Look at that. So that's some stashes that we got for you guys. We got another good show planned for you next week. Until then, everybody, make sure you check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We did a charity live stream this past Sunday. You can go back, you could rewatch that. You could also contribute to the link. It's in the description. And again, if you want to contribute in any way, hit up the email, dynastyrewind@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you. But until next time, for Nate, I'm Mike. Thank you for listening.